In this edition of Art Rocks, dancers compare two classic forms of the art.
But because Kathak and I think also Flamenco have this common bond of the language of the feet and rhythm, you're able to interact that way. So you're able to kind of unify two different cultures and have a positive cross-cultural exchange.
Two artists find a novel way to honor one legendary cartoonist.
This man really was quite brilliant.
He explored the interactive possibilities of digital photography.
What a great thing to basically try and combine social media and photography.
And quilting is elevated to an art form.
Some people walk up and go, "That's a quilt."
It's all ahead on this edition of Art Rocks.
Art Rocks is made possible by the Foundation for Excellence in Louisiana Public Broadcasting and by viewers like you.
Hello, I'm James Fox Smith, publisher of Country Roads magazine, and this is Art Rocks. In our first segment, watch two classic forms of dance from different parts of the world. Then listen as the dancers trace the historic connections between Indian Kathak and the Spanish Flamenco. Let's have a look.
A project of the Baton Rouge Bengali Association, the journey of a dance examines two distinct dance styles from different cultures in one performance. One dance originates from northern India.
So I'm doing an ancient Indian art form, dance form called Kathak. Originally rooted in religion, and it was danced in the temples, danced for, respecting the gods and goddesses, the deities. And then it eventually moved into villages where the Kathak dancer would be telling stories. And Kathak comes from the word katha, meaning to tell stories. Originally they were, about ancient Indian epics, all these famous stories of gods and goddesses saving the lands and these types of things. And then they moved into talking more about just folklore and general folklore and human behavior, like the flirtatious nature of Lord Krishna, which is the male, and his beloved Radha, which is the female, and showing that interaction in everyday human life through the dance. During the Mughal Empire, it moved into the royal courts because India's economy was expanding and the kings and nawabs were becoming patrons of paintings, arts, music, dance, literature, all that. It flourished in the royal courts, and that's where it became a classical art form, where you see the technique was emphasized, the footwork and the rhythm. A long time ago, it wasn't so extravagant, the costumes, but during the Mughal Empire, the Persian stylistic influences came, and the Sufis, the whirling dervishes, they introduced kind of influenced the chakkars, which is the turn. So now the costumes are made to complement that. They have a flaring skirt, and then underneath is the straight-legged pants. And then you wrap the bells, which is a percussive accompaniment, around the ankles, and they're 3 to 5 pounds. Adding to the dance. So this is complementing the footwork.
From the south of Spain, another form of dance was created.
Flamenco is a Spanish dance. It comes from Andalusia, from the gypsies, and it actually came through the Moors. It brought it through, and it's kind of evolved into what it is now. It is a very expressive dance. The Moors and how they were looked down upon by the royalty in Spain, and they were kind of like outcasts, and they had to live outside of the village, and they weren't accepted. This music that they brought with them, a lot of the songs that they sing, because there's a lot of singing and, palmas and music and the guitar, and it's basically, I would compare it to the blues, and it's kind of their way that they're able to release all that frustration and anger and pent-up rage, I guess, that they have, and that's the only form that was, I guess, acceptable.
Both dances are solo art forms, accompanied by live music. Both rely heavily on rhythmic patterns expressed by the feet of the dancer. Joining the two is yet another culture, gypsies that traveled the continents.
So the gypsies took basically the Kathak dancers' styles of the straight legs and the footwork and the turns and the Persian influence, and as they moved through the different countries, picked up other styles and brought them into southern Spain, where the flamenco dancers were influenced by them.
Flamenco dancing is made with all these different rhythms that will influence the tone of your dancing, what you're feeling, your emotions, your passions. It all depends on the music and the singing as well.
Our footwork interaction is very similar. We have a lot of similar rhythms that we can play with and improvise with. We're basically drummers with our feet. But because Kathak and I think also flamenco have this common bond of the language of the feet and rhythm, we're able to interact that way. So you're able to kind of unify two different cultures and have a positive cross-cultural exchange.
For more information on the Baton Rouge Bengali Association, visit brbla.org. Now, take a look at some of the arts and cultural events coming up throughout Louisiana. For more information on these events, visit the website at lpb.org/artrocks. And you can find more arts connections at countryroadsmag.com. In Columbus, Ohio, artists Wayne Kane and Daniel White pay homage to legendary cartoonist Billy Ireland through their stunning stained glass creations. Crafted with great care and attention to detail, each panel depicts aspects of Ireland's life and illustrious career.
We had an opportunity to commission this art glass, and it seemed to us to be an ideal opportunity to use art glass to teach people about Billy Ireland's life and work, and to celebrate that in a format that might be somewhat unexpected and prompt people to think a little bit differently about how cartoons work and why they are beautiful and how they are beautiful.
We already felt like we had connected to Billy Ireland, and it was very exciting, the possibility of being able to make something that would go into a museum that would bear his name.
So I'm very touched that with all the artwork that Billy Ireland produced, that you would go out, that the Billy Ireland Museum people would go out and commission another artist to create a work of art.
Billy Ireland was the most famous cartoonist to work in Columbus, Ohio. Billy Ireland was born in Chillicothe, Ohio in 1880, and the story is that he, as a little boy, drew with chalk on the sidewalks.
I love the fact that he's self-taught. I really identify with that. That to me shows that his art came from within.
We need to remember that at the turn of the 20th century, photographs were still relatively new in newspapers. So cartoonists were hired to do all kinds of drawings.
I love the way that he was into politics and that he fought for what he believed in. I like his robustness, the way he loved good food, and he liked to drink, and he liked to go fishing, and he liked to, swim naked as a boy, and all of these things, and hang out with politicians and judges. And he evidently was a very well-rounded man who just fit right in. And evidently, in order to do that, he was very respected for it.
Ireland drew 5 to 7 editorial cartoons every week, as well as an incredibly complicated full-page Sunday feature called The Passing Show.
All of it is very, very relevant. It looks like some of it may be dated, but the more you look at it, the more you're like, I know exactly where that applies to, you know.
Billy Ireland passionately cared about his community, and I think it's that love of place that really shows up in his work. He had opportunities to go to New York. William Randolph Hearst reportedly offered to build a color printing plant here in Central Ohio if Billy Ireland would do a comic strip for him, and Ireland refused. And after the flood of 1913, the waterfront downtown along the Scioto was devastated. It really was a slum. Basically what Ireland did was to try to talk to people about Columbus's front door, that folks who came into Columbus from the west really saw a slum right before they reached downtown, and that we should be embarrassed about that, and we could do better.
I got 3/16.
I have a 16th of that.
Bring it this way.
I've got about a 1/4 inch.
The work came with a number of challenges. One is, how do you translate cartoons, which were intended for paper, to art glass?
So then, after we cut the glass, it goes to the painting stage. And that is very, very, very elaborate. You have to work out all your different colors, you have to work out your firing temperatures, and you have to work out your style. I think we probably spent 3 or 4 months just practicing the style. And the reason is that you don't want to start off, you don't want your project to look like it's a progression of skills. You want to go into it with top-notch and be top-notch throughout the whole project.
Each panel is, on average, probably fired between 4 and 6 times, depending on how many colors or what touch-up a line may need here or there, or what was lost in the kiln, because the kiln can sometimes burn away the color in an unexpected way, or the oil didn't grab as much pigment as it looks like. My job was to come up with paints that would look as much like watercolor as possible, and pen lines and strokes and thicknesses that would look as much like what he was doing on paper, except we're using glass. We have a selection of cartoons that we could use, and then figuring out how they interacted best with each other and what position, you know, and how to balance them throughout the window so that it didn't look like, you know, you just placed them in picture frame, so to speak, but they're all interacting with each other in some way, moving or playing one off the other.
The interesting thing I think about our art glass is that it follows the tradition of art glass in the great cathedrals of Europe. The art glass is there to teach, and the window here in the reading room is intended to beautify, but also to teach people about Billy Ireland's career and all of the things that he did for our community.
And I hope that one day when people see this piece, they will think that someone did this out of a true passion and love, not only for their craft, but for their art and for the inspiration that it came from.
We want the windows to draw people into that type of sense of just awe, of, you know, appreciation that, you know, this man really was quite brilliant. You know?
To learn more about the museum, visit cartoons.osu.edu. St. Louis photographer Tony Carosella is revolutionizing the way people interact with his still images. By embedding barcodes into his photographs, Carosella encourages direct engagement between the viewer and his subject.
I thought, okay, well, what a great thing to basically try and combine social media and photography. And so one of the things that I thought about, and I'd been working with this for a long time, is using a QR code. And so when I generated the QR codes, I thought, oh, what a great way to maybe make a digital journal by combining not just one QR code, but you could do many, all on one image. And in this case, devoted strictly to the glass blowers. And I could go further. I could take this to where I put 5 or 6 QR codes on an image. So I can associate a video, I can associate photos, I can take it to a website, I can put a business card on there. I can also put a phone number on there and have your phone directly call right off the QR code. So a lot of variety that you can do that's associated with these codes. So the traditional technology, you know, and we've gotten to this point so far because we've transitioned from film, of course, now to digital, and now we've got, you know, incredible digital capabilities. And the interesting part of transitioning now, going from just the straight digital photography, is now we've got a way to actually have that digital photo become interactive. So this is Doug Auer. He's co-owner of Third Degree Glass. And in this one right here, you'll be able to see that the QR codes are masked in there. And so I have some for the QR codes for the background are different. They're masked in differently than the ones that are actually on the body of the artist. And so if you were to also show this, you know, and do a scan, the whole idea is that when you are at the gallery, you'll be able to just go right in and scan to the artist's work. And in this case right here, it will scan right to Doug's, his pieces that he actually has for sale at Third Degree. So this is the gallery that they have on Third Degree. And then if I were to go to the background, then I can go here and I can scan for the background, and I can just pull this in right off the background here. And that'll take you right directly to Third Degree Glass's, their mobile website. And so you have everything right there ready to go. I experimented with the different colors. Can you use different backgrounds? And so I tried to find different palettes and things that would work with the codes themselves. And then and I found out that I could split the photo up into many different little quadrants or whatever and make those codes part of those different pieces. And so essentially I could have kind of a hodgepodge of different codes that relate to different aspects of the picture. I guess I'm intrigued by the technology itself. So if I look at something like a QR code, a lot of times it's just kind of an interesting mental exercise to go, okay, well, this doesn't look very good all by itself. What can I do with this that can take it to a different place? And so when I came up with this, being able to put a couple different kinds of codes on these images and doing a little bit of masking and things like that, it, you know, for me, I kind of got the satisfaction of, you know, oh, okay, now it's turning into something that actually looks nice, has a certain sense of design, and has a practical function for it too. I also kind of look at the commercial aspect of it too, because I think that this might be a good way for advertisers or to sell products, you know, but have these codes to where they're not just a little garish kind of, you know, afterthought. One of the things that I know that I will put on all my photos is a small QR code that will be sort of my signature. So I'll at least have this, and it will have all my business contact information on there. So if somebody does do a QR code reading, it'll instantly create a contact with all my information on the smartphone. So I find that to be like, oh, hey, instead of passing out a paper business card, here it is right here. Now, I think what's going to happen is we'll take a look at this, and from the show, we'll see, oh, then it kind of builds on itself. And so I love seeing that. I love seeing, you know, when you throw something out there and other people all of a sudden looking at it and going, you know, I've got an idea that will tack onto that. So it usually just builds.
Each week on Art Rocks, we'll celebrate and examine another of Louisiana's treasures, an artistic or cultural element with a unique connection to Louisiana. The subject this week is wooden boats.
Louisiana's aquatic landscape and livelihoods have prompted residents to build boats for centuries. The earliest small boats in French Louisiana were the dugout pirogues constructed from a single halved cypress trunk. Plank pirogues, skiffs, and flat-bottom boats like the Chaland developed to fill specific needs in the bayous and waterways of South Louisiana. In Thibodaux, the Center for Traditional Louisiana Boat Building on the Nicholls State University campus contains a wealth of materials and research on the craft of boat building in South Louisiana. Classes are offered with a resident boat builder for individuals looking to develop their craft. The Lake Pontchartrain Maritime Museum and Research Center in Madisonville also offers boat building classes to help students create their own lake skiffs, pirogues, and bateaux and keep these traditional designs alive. The craftsmanship and beauty of wooden boats is celebrated every fall along the Tchefuncte River in Madisonville at the annual Wooden Boat Festival. The crowning event of the festival is the Quick and Dirty Boat Building Contest and Race. These boats, built over the weekend by teams, each with a colorful theme, are strictly for fun. But the festival helps to designate traditional wooden boat making as a Louisiana treasure.
Quilting might conjure up images of basic patterns and primary colors, but at the International Quilt Festival in Houston, Texas, quilt makers are turning the medium on its head. The result? Works of art notable for both the complexity of design and nuance in color.
This is the largest annual quilt show in the world. We get around 60,000 people from literally all parts of the world. We have over 1,500 quilts on display here, but we also have over 1,000 vendor booths. There's no shortage of things to shop for. We have upwards of 350 different classes, basically everything you could want to know about quilting. We have all of these gorgeous quilts that are on display. Some are traditional quilts, like you might see on a bed. Others are redefining that a little bit. Natural settings, floral imagery, botanical imagery, these are all really popular themes across the spectrum of quilting.
My name is Carol Brier, Gentry. I am a quilt artist. That means I make fine art, but I'm using traditional quilting materials and traditional quilting techniques. A block from my studio in Paducah, Kentucky, there's a Bradford pear tree that sheds leaves in all these amazing colors and patterns. So I picked up a leaf and scanned it and started playing with the design and abstracting it and then adding color in. The whole thing was drawn full size on paper, and then I cut out each shape from the paper and attach it to fabric and cut around each one, and so they became separate templates that I pieced together to make the complex design. And then I do a lot of quilting with different colors of thread, and that's really the completion of the piece of art.
We have actually a number of international exhibits this year, one from Taiwan, one from Jerusalem. And then we always have that international aspect to our show because we have a judge show component in which the world's top quilters send their works to compete.
Every time I'm going to Jerusalem, I always feel such an holy spirit, and everyone who goes to Jerusalem says so. It's something special in this city. Every quilt is really different, and everyone has his own Jerusalem. So you can find many, many different Jerusalem here.
We have a couple of exhibits here from the Studio Art Quilt Associates. Basically, they're an organization of art quilters, and their work really represents the cutting edge of contemporary quilt artistry. A really popular movement in quilting right now is called modern quilting. It's based in tradition, traditional techniques, and even sometimes some slightly traditional designs, but then tweaked a bit. So they're going to use more modern colors, modern design aesthetic, a lot of negative space, things that you might not expect to see in quilting. Some people walk up and go, that's a quilt, because it looks like a photograph or a painting, but it is in fact constructed with fabric.
This exhibition is called What's for Dinner, and we thought it would be interesting to do a piece that looked sort of like a place setting, and also really wanted to have the exhibition look like a dinner party.
There's one that's a sushi one, and it's three-dimensional, and it's wonderful. It like comes to life on the dinner plate, where the octopus legs, and it has buttons on it. It's just graphically stunning to look at.
One of my favorite unusual ones is a meal ready to eat, and it talks about how you get this, how you get this thing that's in a package and looks about as unappetizing as you can, and the artist was fantasizing about being able to eat something other than that.
It's 3 layers.
A quilt is 3 layers stitched together, and it doesn't matter what you stitch what to what.
And it doesn't matter what size it is, and it doesn't really matter what the format is.
For more information, visit quilts.com. And that's it for this edition of Art Rocks. But you can always visit online at lpb.org/artrocks, where you'll find feature videos and information on upcoming arts events throughout Louisiana. So until next time, I'm James Fox Smith, and thanks for watching.